Good afternoon. Welcome to the United Methodist Foundation of Louisiana's webinar, Enhancing Church Communication Using Video. We're sure glad you were able to join us today. If you've attended some of these in the past, you'll recognize our presenter. It's Bob Milnick. He owns a communications firm we've used for several years. He's helped us with our website design and maintenance. The name of his firm is Operation Crusader. So we've known him a long time, and some of y'all may have known him now for a couple of webinars. He's going to talk about this and how we can enhance our communications using video at our churches. He'll answer some questions at the end, so you can just enter those questions in the chat. So Bob, let's get to the important stuff, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and welcome everybody. Let me go share my screen here a minute so you can see the presentation. Again, my name is Bob Milnick with Operation Crusader. Operation Crusader focuses on helping businesses, small businesses, churches, nonprofits to effectively communicate online and actually having everything kind of work together, heading toward a common goal. Today, I want to talk a little bit about utilizing video and photography in communication. Before I get started, I'd like to thank the United Methodist Foundation of Louisiana. I appreciate the opportunity and the trust to be able to come on here and present and hopefully help some churches to actually improve their communication. I sincerely do appreciate it. So the purpose of today is to showcase the basics in using video and photography. What I'm not going to be able to do, because it's a much deeper topic, is covering things like video editing, photography editing, dealing with production costs, tools, and all of that kind of stuff. If you're interested in doing that, please let the foundation know. I'll gladly schedule where we can actually get into a lot deeper of the tools and the editing, if that's what you're looking for. For now, though, I'd like to keep it that as the newer people come on to say, okay, let's talk video and photography a bit and see what we can do. I'm not going to talk a lot about photography, but I want to touch base on two things. Research found that if your content includes compelling images, you can average 94% more views than any other counterparts. So if you're just using pictures, like for instance on social media, you're going to get 94% more views than if you have no images at all. 65% of the population is made up of visual learners, leaving auditory and experiential learners in their dust. A lot of people are visual. So the two things I want to say about photography, just to touch base and jump off of it, be very aware of copyright laws. I've seen people go on to do a Google search for an image, copy that image and begin to use it. Especially online, you're setting yourself up for a problem. Be very aware of copyright laws. If you take the picture, you have the rights to use them. If you don't take the picture, you want to make sure they're royalty free or that you obtain the rights to use them. Two sources that you can use is something called Pexels and Unsplash. Both of them will give you a variety of images that you could use if you're not taking your own to kind of enhance what you're looking to do with photography. And finally, with photography, please don't use clip art. Clip art really gives a church a really bad image. It used to be the rage back in the 80s, but churches and things have moved on with communication then. So you really want to use photography that creates an image. So let me jump on to video a little bit. Churches have really begun, especially with the pandemic and everything else, to really use Facebook, YouTube Live, and really lean on live streaming quite a bit. Before we get into the reasons for that, I'd like to go back in time and let's talk a little bit about why we should use video in the first place. Only 7% of the communication are the words we use. That's it, 7%. The other 93% are things like body language, tonality, timbre, speed, things along those lines. For instance, I could say, I love you, I love you, I love you. The words are the same, but because of the way it's said, each one means something different. The benefit of video is you get to incorporate all the other communication topics. So it's not just the words being used, but people get to read the body language. People hear the tone. They get to look in somebody's eyes. They can begin to relate and build a rapport with that person. That's the biggest value of using video. So what I want to do today is talk about two different topics, two different areas. I want to talk about live streaming a bit, and then I want to talk about pre-recorded video. So let's jump into some video basics that deal with both of them before we get started too far. Number one, sound is more important than video quality. Now, I know that sounds weird, especially when we're talking about doing videos, but think about it. When you go online and look at a video, if you can hear the person clearly and the video quality is not the greatest, you still might listen. If you can't hear, no matter how good the video imagery is, if you can't hear it, you're going to jump off of it and not pay attention. You want to make sure that whatever you do, your sound is good. And we'll talk a little bit about how to enhance sound and video in a little bit. Light up your subject. Any more video lights are really inexpensive. And even if you use just a plain lamp and take the the top off it and just brighten up your subject, the adding more light to your subject will enhance the image. Cameras are not as good as the human eye. The human eye can really see distinctions with people. By lighting up the person, you actually build that value. Your video quality will be much better. That's why in a lot of churches you'll see stage lights to actually brighten up the platform. And another one is you really don't need expensive equipment. I've had people in churches I worked with in the past. Some of them have a budget to buy better cameras and things, but most of them say we don't have anything. Yet they're all carrying smartphones. That's really all you need. Yes, there's things you can do to enhance your video quality. Yes, there's things that you can add to the mix, but you don't need to go out and spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to really do better with video. It's really about learning the basics and picking up the basics and making the basic what you can do work for you. And then slowly building equipment as needed from there. Another big one that I see a lot is I see people doing video, both recording it and live streaming it with like a big window behind them. Really what you're doing is creating yourself, putting yourself in the shadow, and nobody will ever see you. So don't record with a big light source behind you like a window. Be very aware of what's behind you and those lights because you want people to see you. The goal with video is to get people to build a rapport with the speaker, to really engage, to really connect. So don't make a recording with with a big window behind you with a lot of light coming in. Can you do it? Yes, if you have really good equipment and you know how to do the settings. For most people, I just recommend not. Just change the camera, move the camera. In fact, if you have a big window, flipping things around so you're facing the window actually provides a lot of light to light up the subject naturally. So you can actually utilize what people see. And if you're doing light with a window, please don't don't face with half window over here, because what you end up doing with this half of your face will become bright, this half of your face becomes dark. So you really want to brighten up the entire subject. So let's talk about live streaming for a few minutes. Webinar, Zoom, social media streaming like Facebook and YouTube. This is where a lot of churches have really started and put some things together. Present what you want people to see. Be very aware of your surroundings. You see, one of the biggest mistakes churches make when they do live streaming, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or through their website, is they think it's only for their people. And it's just not true. I have a little church that I work with near me that has about 50 members. And because of everything, the pastor is in his 70s and he asked for some help doing some video. So he live streams, he actually creates a recording himself on an iPad, sends it to me, and we get it posted on his social media. We get it posted everywhere. And that little church of all the 50 members, if everybody comes, last week had 278 people watch his video. Don't assume that video, that streaming, that video service is just going to be for your people. You want to be very aware of perceptions. So what that means is simply this: depending on where that camera is at, be aware of everything that camera sees. Sometimes I see people with cameras so far back, they see a lot of pews and things like that in front of them. Bring the camera much closer. You don't want to see empty pews, because what happens with the society, perception is everything. how people see you is the mistake they make and how they feel about you. So for instance, if your church is going and you still decide to live stream and you have live services going on, if I'm coming in as a visitor and watching that service and I see a lot of empty pews, my first initial reaction might be, oh, nobody really goes to that church. Or if I look at your thing and I see boxes placed everywhere on the platform and things are just really cluttered, it's really easier for me to go, oh, they really just don't care. Or if I see people sitting in the front row, because if your camera's back, I can see that front section of your church, and I see people that are just not interested, whether they're doing other things or they become really distracting to what you're looking to do. And all of a sudden, I'm drawing conclusions from that. Is that fair? No, it's not, but it is the way it is. So people tend to draw perceptions on what's presented to them. So you want to make sure you're presenting the right things to them. When the churches are not live in service, it's easy. You can move the camera right up front. When it's not, you want to get the camera as close as you can to the front, but be very aware of what people see. If possible, use a better camera. If you don't, a cell phone, a smartphone like an iPhone works great. A tablet works wonderful. But if you use those two things, get close because you're going to need to. If you're going to use a camera, a lot of newer video cameras and even some DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, like the one I'm showing you here, have a way to connect it through a USB drive to your computer, which allows you to point the camera any which way you want to go and then stream it right through that. Use that camera instead of the one built into the iPad or the cell phone. So that's also a possibility. You want to make sure when you get a camera that it has the capabilities of doing that, because you're going to want a better zoom factor to be able to zoom in a bit more, to be able to do some more stuff. So if you have the capability of using a better camera, do that. If not, use what you got is really the best thing I could tell. We talked about this already. Sound is important. If you're using a video camera and you can plug that into your soundboard, do it. That sound quality will go up immensely and you'll be able to hear it much better. Even again, if the picture's not as great or it's from a little bit further away, if I can hear you, I'm still going to watch. If I can't hear you, I'm not going to watch. If you cannot plug your camera into your soundboard, because maybe you're using a cell phone or something like that, get the mic up close as you can. Somebody sitting way up in the front row and try to get that mic as close to the speaker as you can. Another option that you can do is you can buy a wireless lavalier mic. They're actually relatively inexpensive. So one component plugs into your cell phone and or your camera. The other component sits on the pastor or the subject and it's wireless so you can hear what the person talks about. One of the other mistakes that I see quite a bit, especially as I watch different churches doing meetings, is sometimes pastors, especially in a smaller church, are very comfortable walking around away from microphones. If you're being recorded, either if you have a lapel mic or a lavalier mic on you, fine. If not, stay close to the microphone so people can hear you. Again, you want to be very aware of what people are picking up and how they're picking that up. So sound is really, really important. If you're doing this online, you're doing live streaming, be sure you have somebody engage people while they're online. You want to enhance that experience of that Zoom. You want to make them feel like they're there. Or if you're doing a live stream of a different, not just a service, but a different event, you want to be able to reach out to people and say, hey, welcome. You want somebody being able to do that. And it can be somebody, if you're streaming it to Facebook and so like an administrator on your Facebook page. If you're doing it to YouTube, it could be somebody on your managing your YouTube page, basically saying, welcome, I'm glad you're here, and actually having a conversation with those folks to kind of engage them, to bring them into the mix. So it's not, make it from a passive watching to something that's a bit more active. Use streaming for more than just services. A lot of times churches are being thrust in the situation where they're using it for services, and that's kind of it. Use streaming for a lot of other things. For instance, church events. Let's say you're having a covered dish. I mean, every church I've been to loves the word fellowship, and in churches, the word fellowship means let's eat. So church events, let's say you're having a covered dish dinner sometime, And opening up your cell phone and streaming a little bit and saying, hey, we're having so much fun here, here's what we're doing, is a positive thing. Do some fireside chats. Not everything has to be a big service. So for instance, the pastor or somebody sitting in a chair just speaking for a few minutes and talking and sharing from the heart has a lot of power. You can stream that right to the internet. I'll do some small groups that way and really focus in on helping those small groups get engaged and really get connected. So you can isolate who those videos are for. But think of it as an extension of the church and not just focused on the church service. So let's talk webinars just for a minute, because there's a lot of churches now starting to do webinars more than streaming, even though they're very, very similar. Um, watch your background. I see this more than, now this is a funny picture, but I see this more than you can imagine. People not thinking about being on camera. So what happens, they get online, they do a webinar, they put their PowerPoint, and you know what? Their camera's on. And they forget their cameras on. So what ends up happening is people come on and the person doing the presentation, they lose a lot of credibility. If you're doing the presenting, be aware that you're on camera. Be aware that people are seeing it. You don't want to dress, you don't want to have your background, you don't want to have things in such a way that it distracts from what your information you're trying to get across. Be very aware of your background. That could be kids running around, pets running around. I've seen one recently where the person was actually sitting in their bedroom doing the webinar, and you could tell they were sitting in their bed. And it just was very distracting because you're wondering, okay, what's going on? And what happens is very easy to lose sight of what the person's saying by looking around. Like if you were watching this one, the question would be, is that cat going to jump on her lap? What's going to happen? Watch your background. If you're on a webinar, use a headset and or a microphone. The reason for that, it cuts off a lot of residual sound, reverberation, things along those lines. It really cleans up how people hear you and what they see. So for instance, you could use a Bluetooth headphone like this so I can hear, or a microphone like I actually have sitting in front of me, or the Bluetooth headphone can also act as the microphone. There's a lot of ways to do it, but you want to use, if you're going to do a lot of them, you want to use a decent quality headphone and microphone system. It just enhances the sound. It doesn't sound so tinny. It's really, we're not talking very expensive, but you can use that to really improve what you're looking to do. And it'll take your webinars and your presentations up a whole nother notch just because people can hear you and see you clearer. You can do more than sit at a computer showing a PowerPoint like I'm doing right now. You can do more than that. You can hook an external camera, you throw a USB drive to your computer, okay, and point it, use a microphone like a lavalier mic that's wireless, and actually stand at a whiteboard, for instance, and teach. Or you can, stand and talk. There's a lot of things you can do than sitting doing a webinar, sitting at a platform, showing a PowerPoint, doing that. Don't get restricted into thinking a certain way. All webinars is a presentation that's live, but people call it a webinar because they think it's different. It's actually still live streaming. Let's talk for a few minutes about pre-recorded video, because live streaming, a lot of churches are starting to get the hang of live streaming and they kind of get it. So let's talk about pre-recorded videos for a second. First of all, if you're going to do pre-recorded videos, have a plan. What is the purpose of this video? Why are you doing it? There's a lot of great places for videos. I'm going to talk about some of them, but why are you doing it? Keep it short and to the point. People don't like long, drawn out videos. I got other things to do. Keep it short, get it to the point, edit it and brand it, put a logo on it, use it everywhere. If you're going to go through the headaches of doing a video, use it everywhere and tell a story. A real question I get all the time is, how long should a video be? Short. When you're doing a live presentation, long drawn out introductions, telling stories and jokes is a great way to break in an audience and get them relaxed. In a video, if you do that, you'll lose people right out of the gate. Get right to the point, keep it short. A good length for a video is under 2 minutes. If you can do that, you're doing well. So keep it drawn, keep it to the point, keep it really focused on what the information you're trying to get across. Say it quickly, say it strongly, and be done. If you're going to do video online, you need to find a place to host those videos so you can share it. So for instance, the general stories, there's two places that I recommend. One is a company called Wistia. Wistia is a very high-end video holding company. It allows you to embed videos on websites and other places. Another one, which is a little bit less expensive, is something called Vimeo. Both of them are good. I actually utilize both of them for different topics and different things. So those two things I would recommend. Sometimes media platforms allow you to upload videos directly to them. For instance, like Facebook and YouTube, both allow you to upload videos directly to them as well. But be aware of what you're looking to do with the video. That'll answer the question of where you should put it. So where can a video be used? How about vlogs? People are very familiar with blogs where you write out a lot of text. Do a video blog. Let people see you. Talk to them. So for instance, from a pastor's perspective, it might be, hey, here's a scripture verse. Let's talk about it for a second. Or it might be an encouragement, or it might be something like that, or something you're thinking. Do some vlogs, do some of those types of things, and actually share some information. Social media is a powerful, powerful place for video. For instance, on Facebook, there are two strategies that I give to churches, and I'll share them here. Strategy number one is on Thursday, say, hey, here's something I want you to begin thinking about as we lead into Sunday sermon. I want you to begin thinking about this. Use object lessons. Maybe put a big bowl of chocolate in front of you. Let's talk about temptation for a minute. Again, get them thinking of a topic. Sunday, then have the sermon. Then on Tuesday, say, I want to give you the final points to kind of close out Sunday service. So what that does is extend the service all through the week. The other thing that you can do with social media is do some videos that are a little bit different. For instance, a common question we're asked is, if God is so good, why do bad things happen to good people? It's a great question. Let's talk about for a minute. And then share those and share that online. But that's some of the stuff that you can utilize with social media. Announcements. A lot of times churches do announcements where the pastor will stand up or somebody will stand up and actually give the announcements. How about recording them? So you can edit them and you can kind of create a 2-minute or a 3-minute recording of the announcements. You can play it while the platform's getting reset for the service. So that's another thing that you can do with announcements, and then share them everywhere. Pre-service focus. A lot of times what will happen is people come into the service, there might be some music playing, or there might not. The pre-service focus is a great place to kind of showcase what the church is going, put a video together. Here's what our church is about. Here's what we do. Here's why it's so important. Let me introduce you to our culture, why we do what we do. It's a great place for a video to kind of get people really focused in on what's about to happen within the service. Finally, virtual courses. Teach online. Create some of those videos and then create a place on your website where somebody, for instance, can go in and learn a class. For instance, let's say somebody in your church is doing a virtual class on the book of Galatians, as an example. Well, you want to make sure you record those. Just hit the button like on a Zoom link and hit record. Well, you can download those videos then and put them on a Vimeo or a Wistia, put them on your website. So now that course is available anytime people want to take it. So having some of those virtual courses really come in handy. And because you can edit them, you can kind of clean some stuff out, like prayer requests. You really don't want people hearing that kind of stuff. So you edit that stuff out. So it's just focused in on really what the course is about. But do some virtual courses online. Give people a reason to really engage and connect with you. I appreciate your time. I know I ran through this really, really quick. It's just kind of laying a foundation for utilizing video. If I can be of any help to you, please reach out to me. This is my email address in my company. Please reach out to me. I'll gladly do it. We'll gladly spend the time and talk about whatever concerns or whatever you look to. I know there were some questions dealing with encoding and things like that, which is a much deeper question. We could take an hour just talking about that topic. So I wanted to keep this relatively straightforward. Does anybody have any questions that I can help with? Let me stop sharing my screen so if there's other questions, I can answer them. And then if not, I'll turn it back over to Chris. Are there any questions? Oops. Do we recommend Vimeo over YouTube for hosting? Yes and no. That's going to sound like one of those confusing answers. The problem with YouTube, the benefit of YouTube is free. You create an account, people can watch it, people can share it, people, you're a drawing of the traffic coming in. It's a great place to host some services and things like that. I recommend YouTube for that very reason. The challenge with YouTube is that how YouTube gets paid is by putting a lot of advertising over stuff. Sometimes that can break up what you're trying to accomplish with the video. So sometimes I recommend, depending on what the video is about, putting that on a Vimeo. If you're putting it on your website, for instance, Vimeo is really easy to embed on a website, and it gets rid of all the advertising stuff. And for a nonprofit, it's really inexpensive. I don't want to quote a price here, but it's very inexpensive. But it gets rid of all that advertising and stuff that's over top of the videos. So it really comes down to what you're looking to accomplish with that video. If you want it shared in a lot of ways, YouTube works wonderful. You can also post it on Facebook because people can share right on Facebook, create watch parties and everything else. If it's something like a lesson or a course or something like that, then I would switch gears and almost recommend using like a Vimeo type service. So you can kind of control the atmosphere a bit more. Are there any other questions that I can answer? Just type them in the chat. If not, I'll turn it back over to Chris because I see a smiling face standing there.
Well, Bob, thanks very much for helping us yet again and leading today's discussion. Great tips, great information. I, for one, picked up on some things that I think will help us here at the foundation going forward. And hopefully there'll be some tips that our churches can use out there across the conference. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank you for joining us throughout our 2020 webinar series. There will be more webinars coming in 2021. We're working on content now at the foundation, and we look forward to bringing you more rich content and information that we hope will help your churches in the days to come and into the new year. So please watch for the schedule as we will email it out. On behalf of the foundation, I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. God bless you all, and thank you for your continued support of your foundation. Take care.